Canal.
No, wait, you guys know the road school you? Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I know you don't have.
Oh, I'll take you
You know, this isn't my first rodeo.
Well, let's see if we can get that in. Oh, it's so nice. Look at how gorgeous. I bet you it won't. Get to go.
painted turtle. All right, this morning we're going to go on about a 5/8 of a mile trip on the Union Canal. This canal was 88 miles long. It stretched from Reading to Middletown, just south of Harrisburg. This canal was the brainchild of the first governor of Pennsylvania, who was who? First governor of Pennsylvania. Yes. William Penn, thank you. All right. In 1690, Penn, realizing that to make it was a colony then, to make it grow, he wanted to establish a town inland up on the Susquehanna River. The Susquehanna River is not navigable, so you can't get boats up and down the Susquehanna. So he wanted to get from Philadelphia to what's now Harrisburg. He took a little trip and thought it might be possible to build a canal, and he put it in a diary. It sat on the shelf for almost 60 or 70 years, when a group from the Philosophical Society in Philadelphia, headed by David Rittenhouse, found it. They tried to pursue it, and they actually came out and surveyed. This canal was the first surveyed anything in the United States. Road, canal, whatever. So they thought this was possible. Between 1765, 1772, they did the survey. But of course, before they could do anything, we had a little skirmish with England called what? Called what? A war. What was it called? The Revolutionary War. Good. All right. We're going. You're good. You're good. So nothing happened until after the Revolutionary War. And after the war, Robert Morris and David Rittenhouse decided to put this plan into action. And in 1789, that's when the United States was actually established. 1789, they went to the legislators here in Pennsylvania with the idea, and they got around $400,000 to build this canal. In 1792, the first shovelful was turned over, and that was out in Myerstown, where I now live, near the Tulpahawken Inn, right behind it. That's that place out there on 422 with the big plastic horses. That's it. And right behind that, by the way, is one of the still one of the locks from this this canal. So 1792, they start out. They start in Lebanon. They start in Myerstown. This is where it started. Of course, they dug all over, but this is where it started. And they ran in. You know where Pensy Supply is? What do they mine there? Limestone, right? Well, that's what they ran into also, and they went right through their budget. Within about 3 years, they had no more money, and they didn't have a canal. So it was on and off building for a number of years. They tried to raise money by selling lottery tickets. The lottery was very successful for the people that bet on it.
I'm happy too.
They won $33 million. Only about $250,000 came to working on the canal, so it wasn't very successful for the canal. Again, work is on and off until the 1810, 1811, with Erie Canal being built, the Tidewater Canal, the Lehigh Canal. They needed to get this done, or Philadelphia was going to lose out with the resources inland here. So work began in earnest, and they had people from Ireland that they picked up in New York and Boston and brought down here, and things were moving right along. They dug both from Middletown this way and from Reading this way. And then they got, in about 1826, they got to the point that they were about ready to finish. But they had a problem. It's right over here on our right. This hill that's now known as Tunnel Hill. You could try to get the boats over the top or around or whatever. They decided to go through. Yeah, and they had a crew start on both sides in 1826. They got in there. You'll see in a minute, there's limestone, flint, all kinds of hard rock. And this is what they used. A star drill. It's got a little star on the end. These were this long, up to about 4.5 feet. One Irishman would hold it against the stone. The other would pound it with a sledgehammer. And there'd be a little chip.
Wow.
And then they'd turn it, hit it, little chip, boom, 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 boom. Eventually they'd get a hole, and they'd fill it up with black powder. Oh, I even have a sledgehammer here. You want to try it with me? Sure, go ahead. They had bigger sledgehammers than that, though. Now, don't miss. Yeah, so that's how they did it. Didn't work very well. Good job.
Good job, buddy.
Obviously, they started at both ends.
Oh, they're not happy.
They're headed for the ponds near my house. They started at both ends and worked toward each other. It was slow, arduous work. Remember, you're going to get wet in here, folks.
Okay? Get wet. We're going to get wet.
Oh no.
Get dripped on.
All right.
In fact, let me sneak back the light. In fact, they moved at the rate of about 10 to 15 feet a week. So it was slow. They worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and you can see why it was arduous. All right, right up here we got some orange. That's iron ore. There's a little iron ore in here. The darker stuff is the flint, and then you can see the white stuff coming down. That's limestone, and the water dripping through. We've already started. See those up there? What are those called? Stalag what? Tricites.
Heights, I told you.
They hold tight to the ceiling. There you go.
Right in my eye. I get drinking it with
And over here to my right behind me here, there's a line there. That's a shift from an earthquake long ago. All right, so they're working toward each other. They pound the holes, they put black powder in, and then they run like mad.
All right.
It was somewhat dangerous work, but amazingly, only 4 people died during this project. They all died at once, back near where we just came into the tunnel. They didn't run fast enough, or the fuse was too short, and the tunnel collapsed on them. They built this tunnel 15 feet wide, 15 feet high, and it was 729 feet long. Right now, well, just past there. you were 80 feet under the surface. 80 feet under the surface. So this water, folks, is water from last week. This is not from last night.
Wow.
It takes about a week for the water to leak through. So it was 15 feet wide, 15 feet high, 729 feet long. In the late 1840s, early 1850s, they dug the canal wider. The canal originally was only about 8 to 10 feet wide. One boat went one way, and then they had to go the other way. It was one-way traffic. In the late 1840s, to accommodate the bigger boats, they dug the canal 17 and a half, 18 feet wide, and they came in here and took about 3 feet off the top so the boats could get through. So now this tunnel is 15 feet wide, 18 feet high, but in taking that off, they lost some land out here at the end. Today, the tunnel is only 621 feet long. As we come out the tunnel, if you look out there, on the right-hand side, toward the end of that wall, that's where the original tunnel ended.
Oh, wow.
So with all this work, 2 years it took them to dig the tunnel. 1828, the Union Canal. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. In 1828, the Union Canal opens for business. The first boat through was called the Alpha of the Tulpahawken. Now, I told you that we were 80 feet underground over back there, but we're also at that point 300 feet above Reading, Pennsylvania, and 200 feet above Middletown, on the Susquehanna. So there were 93 locks on this canal, almost one for every mile. Now remember, water flows which direction? Downhill. So from right there, which was called the summit, every time you opened the lock, the water drained out. So there was a big problem up here in the summit area with water. They pumped water from Lions, well, it wasn't called Lions Lake then, but so you know where it's at. Lions Lake, Strack Dam, Stover Reservoir. They pumped water up here to keep this thing full. Another way they got water up here, they had a huge water wheel, like a Ferris wheel. It was down near Cumberland Street, right? If any of you know where the intermediate school is, corner of Cumberland Street and Lincoln, right behind there, they had a 40-foot high water wheel, and it pulled water out of the Quillipedia Creek, and it ran in an aqueduct up to about where Maple Street is, because that's where the canal was, just south of Maple Street, to get water. So now that this canal's open, things are great. It's like a super highway of commerce, sort of. Because prior to that, if you wanted to take something from, say, where the Harrisburg area to Philadelphia, you had to use a Conestoga wagon. A Conestoga wagon carries about 5 tons. It takes 6 horses or mules or ox or whatever, and it took 12 days for a one-way journey. Once this canal was finished, that trip would take about 5, maybe 6 days, depending on the traffic. The first canal boats, which were about this wide, but about 2.5 times this long, carried 25 tons, 5 times as much, and they were pulled by what?
Mules?
A mule. How many mules? 1 mule. 1 mule could pull it. And right over here on the left, or should I say the port side, is where the canal path was. The canal path went all along the south side of this, And the mule would pull the canal boat along. Remember I said in the 1840s, 1850s, they made the canal wider. They made the tunnel higher. The new canal boats were about 3 to 3.5 times as long. And they carried 75 tons. And it only took 1 to 3 mules to pull those also. So, commerce begins. Now, like I said, there are 93 locks on this canal. Right down there where that bridge is, there's the remnants of a lock down there. This was called, they were numbered, this lock down here was called 1 West. 1 East was out near where the Narrows Road is, out east of Lebanon. And that was one spot where it was still one way because it was all limestone through there and they could only get through one way. There are other locks if you want to see them in various stages of disrepair. There are 3 up by the landfill in Lebanon. There are 2 in Myerstown, one right off Ramona Road, sort of behind Tulpa Hopkins. And there's one right in Fairlane Park in Myerstown that's pristine, with the exception of the gates to keep the water in and out. And if you go down to the Heritage Center in Reading, which way are we turning here?
I'm gonna go pretty close to the.
Okay. If you go down to the Heritage Center, which is on the Tulpa Hopkins Creek in Reading, they have a restored lock there, and they actually have a little what do you call it? Museum. Tells you about this. Now, in just a second or two, we're going to do something that they weren't able to do back then. Since our boat is shorter, we're going to turn around. We hope.
Oh, there's a turtle.
Now what happens here is this.
Right on the,
I have to push on this pole to turn the bow around, while Greg works the rudder to get it around. Sometimes it doesn't quite work right, and we need some extra help, so I throw somebody over who is nearest to me, and they get in the water and push the bow around.
I want to go to that museum and see about the canal, with all the locks. That'd be really cool.
And we can go a couple more boat lengths. All right.
Yeah,
We'll go a couple more boat
We've
lengths.
never gone this far on the boat.
I'm getting a little worried. We may go over that. We won't do that.
There might be a trail. There's a mallard duck right over there. Yeah, green, yeah.
I told you the canal was, well, 8.5 feet wide, then 17.5 feet wide. I forgot to tell you about the life preservers in case we needed them, but you don't really need them because the canal is only about 3.5 to 5 feet.
They're like we're
Uh-oh. Looking a little unsteady here. We may need some help. Let's see.
We'll get food as soon as we get back. We'll go to the bathroom and get food, okay? Okay, good. I think Daddy's hungry too. I didn't want it to get too hot, to be honest, but
Every year I can't just drive the car.
he's hungry.
very good. Thank you. Where you are
Well, as soon as the next boat arrives, I'll be 10:30.
All right, these canal boats, at the height of the commercial operation on this canal, there were about 100 boats at any one time working. So figure that out. That's about 1 a mile. These boats were operated for the most part by families. Some of them were owned by companies, but it was usually a family that operated the boat. So if your family had a canal boat or operated a canal boat, you would come out on the ice thaws. Back then it was about mid-March. Mid-March you'd come out, you'd get the canal boat ready, you'd get on the canal boat, and you and your family would essentially stay on that boat, be on that boat, until Thanksgiving. So, it was a long time. Yeah, you got off to get provisions. You got off occasionally. There were pull-off reservoirs that you could get off and stop. But basically, you were on the boat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, they had a cabin. Some were above deck, some were below deck. They were usually about 8 by 8. Okay, 8 by 8. That's how much? 64 square feet. So I want you to imagine. Imagine you and your family. 64 square feet for 9 months. Okay. Everybody had a job. Actually, it was quite often the wife would be at the tiller, back where Captain Greg is, and the husband would be up front, because you'd have to maneuver around other boats. You'd have to get any junk, trees that may have fallen in the canal out of the way. Usually the oldest child would be out there on the mule path. I'm going to interrupt my narrative. If you look to the left, there's a culvert pipe there. That's water that drains in from Lions Lake now.
Oh.
That's our only, besides the rain, that's our only means of water. Sometimes in the summer this gets quite low, and I'll talk about the canal getting low in a little while. So the oldest child would be out here on this canal path leading the mule, and the younger kids would be on the boat because they would be homeschooled on the boat. The little kids, it'd probably be child abuse today, but the little kids had ropes tied around them. That's so if they fell in the water, you could fetch them back. Now we have a problem. We're coming around the corner here. We've got the mule out here on the right. Our son's pulling us. How's he going to get through that tunnel?
Up and around.
What? How's he going to do it? Who said that?
Up and around.
Up and around. If you look right behind us there's a shed. We call that the mule shed. That's not always been there, folks. But right about here, they would unhitch the mules. And right over here is a path you can actually hike on. We had an Eagle Scout project that he restored the path called the Mule Path. It goes up over the hill and comes down at the other portal. So now we don't have any power. We have to supply the power. You tell us how we did that. How did we get through? Pushed our way through. We had the bamboo poles. That's one thing we could push in the water. The other thing that used to happen a lot was, your canal boat's filled with cargo. You get up on top of the cargo, lay on top of the cargo, and push through with your feet or your hands on the roof, on the ceiling of the tunnel. Now, as we move up here toward the tunnel, you'll see this stonework up above the tunnel and over to the left. That was not original to this, to the original tunnel. That was a project of the, the CCC during Franklin Roosevelt's time. They put people together. They shored this up. The tunnel wasn't in use at that time, but it was a project that put people to work. So right here, we're coming up right on the left, where that little rock sticks out, is where the original tunnel came from. I'm gonna have to pay you. Now, as we come in here, as we come in, I want you all to look up to the wall on the left. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this was all done by the All right, we got some, the limestone in here, but if you look up here to the left on this wall, you'll see a whole bunch of scar marks. See those scar marks?
Yeah.
Right there, and down there. Those are all marks from the star bit.
That's cool.
Now I'm looking up here because I used to have a little buddy that was up here. I haven't been out this year.
You got a buddy up there.
I don't see him.
What kind of buddy?
Anybody know what he was?
Oh, a bat.
No, he wasn't a bat.
A rat.
Right there's from the earthquake too. If it wasn't a bat, there's a reason for that. Bats do not roost over water. It was a little barn owl.
A barn owl. A real?
He's been there for 8 years. And starting last year, I saw him sparingly. There's another star mark.
Wow.
I saw him sparingly.
Get your dog.
Now, as we go through, there's some more. This is the oldest still existing transportation tunnel in North America. What you're going through right now is essentially the same as it was in 1848 when they finished the top. There's been basically no restoration work in here whatsoever, with the exception of this south portal. There's a little place up there that they put in, you'll see when we go out, that they put up some concrete to keep it from caving in down there. The amazing thing, remember I told you that they started at both ends? What's amazing, if you look back right now and you look forward right now, it's almost right straight through. They did a good job on that. It turns just slightly. The only one that knows that is the person driving the boat. And because of that, this tunnel is a national civil engineering historic site as well as a national historic site. Actually, very near here, there was another transportation tunnel done around the same time. It was done in 1825 over on the Reading, the Schuylkill navigation system. They did that not because they needed to. They used it as a tourist attraction. They bring people into Pottsville and take them down the canal through the tunnel. It was in loose shale. Needless to say, it didn't last long. By 1830, it had fallen in. Actually, the bike trail up through there, you go right through where it used to be. So as we come out on this south end, I want you to look up to the wall on the left, and there you'll see our two plaques indicating this is a National Historic Civil Engineering Site as well as the National Historic Site. See, right there at the end, there's a little concrete. That's the only restoration work that's been done. Likewise, the stonework here on the outside was part of the CCC program.
Like this day?
So right up here on the left are those two flags on the wall.
Super cool, man.
Now, I remember while we were inside, I told you about or when we came out back there, about the problem with having to pump water in here to keep this thing full. When you were back in the tunnel there, you also got wet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a problem, because under this is some limestone as well. So what happened was, there were numerous times that from this south portal all the way out almost to Myerstown, the water, they couldn't keep enough water in it. It would leach through and it'd get dry. That's not good for commerce. So they had a brilliant idea. They decided they would cut oak planks, tongue and groove them, and line the canal. The canal would be easy to do that because it was a trapezoid. It went straight down this way, flat across the bottom. So they got the tongue and groove planks, they put them in the canal for almost 6 miles, and guess what? It worked. It worked. It kept the water in the canal. Great. Well, not so great, because what happens with wood when it's in the water a long time? It becomes wet and it rots. That's right. So after a few years, the wood rotted and it started leaking again. Now they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, that's what they did. They lined it again, and of course it leaked again. So then somebody finally got the bright idea, if we mix limestone with clay, maybe we can pack this in. And that's what they did, and now it operates. Before this canal was opened in 1828, this whole area up here, North Lebanon, was just sort of a wilderness. There wasn't much here. Once the canal opened, and once another canal opened, because in the 1830s, in 1835, they dug another canal from about where the water, if any of you know where the waterworks are up north of Lebanon, from there up to Pine Grove. So now they could pull resources from coal country.
Nice.
So 1828 and up in around 1840, this was the height. And North Lebanon grew because the commerce was coming through. The coal and other things were coming through from Schuylkill County. Cornwall Furnace, been to Cornwall Furnace, they were bringing their iron up a corduroy road to North Lebanon and loading on the canal. So things were going good for about 5 or 10 years. In 1862, a huge, I don't know if it was a hurricane or not, but we'll say it was a hurricane. A huge storm came through, and it completely wiped out the canal between Pine Grove and the waterworks, and it did a lot of damage on the western end of this canal toward Harrisburg area. They never really recouped from that. They couldn't raise the money to fix it really well. But that's not really what ended the operation of the canal. What do you think really put the death stroke on the canal. The railroads, once the railroads came through, it was just a matter of time, because now we've gone, if you think about the commerce at that time, we've gone from 5 tons in the Conestoga wagon, 25 tons in the for early canal boats, 75 tons, and of course the train can go a whole lot faster than this. The speed limit was 4 miles an hour on the canal. The mule took care of that. You didn't have to worry about speed. So now the trains come in, and of course they can carry much more freight. They can get there a lot faster. Now, it wasn't only the canal boat families that made a living on the canal. 93 locks, they had to have somebody to operate those locks. So at each little lock there was a little shack that people lived in. They had about an acre of land to farm, and so they were farming. They couldn't make their living all by just opening and closing the canal, even though they had to do it quite often. So they weren't always right there to open the lock for you, so you had to have a way. Now these canal boats did not have air horns, remember? And the mule did not whistle loud enough. So they needed a way, and they didn't want a trumpet because trumpets were expensive. If you dropped a trumpet in the canal, you lost a lot of money. Oh, you're going backwards. Okay. So here's what they did. Guess I can't reach. There's a conch shell. They took a conch shell and they cut the end off of it. Now, my next question, I have a big question.
I can't even find mine.
I can see he likes this question.
Yeah.
Is there anybody in here that played a horn? A trumpet? A tuba? Who played a horn? Nobody in here played a horn?
The piano fan.
We're in trouble then, because we're not going to be able to tell the lock keeper that we're coming home.
Uh-oh.
You want to try? You know how to do it? You want to try it? You'll try it? No? Sure. Go like this. I can't do it. I'm old. No, you can't. Can you do it? I'm too old. I guess we have to have the captain do it for us. Oh, well, see?
Why didn't you say so?
I didn't.
Isn't that funny? That's how they told them that they were coming home.
All right, so
There you go.
you can keep it back there. I got another one up here to pass out. I clean them, by the way. There's no germs on them. So the canal closed in 1885, and it slowly fell into disrepair. I've got pictures of different places along the canal right now. It's just sort of a depression with grass and trees growing in it. In 1950, realizing the historic significance of the tunnel, the Lebanon Historical Society bought the land around the tunnel. And since then, we've expanded the land to this 110-acre park.
Wow.
This is all, make sure you stay seated till we get tied up. This is all operated by volunteers. Greg and I did not pick up a big paycheck. There you go. Yeah. So, if any of you are ever interested in volunteering, doing groundwork, we instruct people on learning how to narrate and drive the boat. You could be a ship captain. You could have a nice plaque on your wall saying captain.
I love it.
Do you want to be captain?
Like mine. All right.